Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Enterprise Agility Champs. We are really excited to have you here, and we are really excited for this wonderful topic that we have for you. But before we talk about the topic, I want to talk about our presenter for today. Our presenter is Dr. Uday Kamath. So when we created the event, we wrote about his expertise in the areas of AI and ML and the amazing books that he has written, which are top sellers in Amazon. But I also want to talk about another part of Uday that was not covered in things that we published. So I've known Uday for about 15 years or so, or even more. Um, Uday has so many different facets. And the interesting thing is that he excels in all of that. He is an amazing chef. He writes recipes and he publishes them and really is deep into cooking. In addition to that, he is an amazing poet who has been invited to present in so many different poetry meetups across the globe. He is an expert in linguistics and he understands. So when I say linguistics, he is kind of like anthropology. He probably might be able to say it better than I am, but he has so much in-depth knowledge of so many different languages and the genesis of those languages, how they got modernized, and so on and so forth. He is a marathon runner and has lots of records in how many marathons he has run. He is a philanthropist. And I mean, I could go on. We could take the whole hour just talking about Uday, but I won't do that. We are excited because he's here to share with us the expertise that he has gained in the area of implementing AI and ML. And he's here to talk to us today about what are some of the challenges he faced, how did he overcome them, and how Agile can be a good way to implement AI and ML in our projects. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Uday Kamath.
Thank you, Toby. Thanks for that introduction. It's kind and kind words there. Thank you so much. I'll just give my professional background. I have been working with AI and machine learning for more than 20 years now in various areas. Initially from 2000 till 2007, I was working more on knowledge engineering and ontologies, creating frameworks that could answer difficult questions related to different areas in security as well as in financial crime. Then I moved more into areas of financial crime, modeling fraud, modeling insurance fraud, even healthcare in terms of Medicare and Medicaid fraud for various states. Then I moved to I worked as the Chief Analytics Officer for Digital Reasoning. We were very successful in using AI for top 20 investment banks, using it for detecting complex behaviors that happen in communications, using the same platform for doing clinical records processing and automatically detecting cancer from that. And also in security agencies like FBI, using the same software to link and find things like sex trafficking. After that, in 2020, my company got acquired by Smarsh, and right now we are in the process of building and releasing the first AI communication intelligence platform. I think one or two people here have worked very closely with me here while doing that. Shri was the engineering manager there, the VP of engineering. I have background in AI and machine learning, but more on the practical side of it. And that's what I will be going through in this particular talk, giving some of the insights I had, like making the projects or product successful while incorporating some of the agile processes. So I wanted to go over the agenda, and like in most of my talk, I first say what is not in the agenda, then discuss some of like AI and data science failures, which I will be discussing in the challenges part. I'll be talking about like the similarity and differences between some of like the data science process and the agile processes. The data science and AI are at like every company, they are in different maturity stages. So it becomes very important to understand what stage your product or project is, and then incorporate the right process. I'll be talking about how to map some of the agile processes to data science and vice versa, talking about like what works, what doesn't work, what are some of the challenges, and some of the ideas that we have learned, of course, like any other folks here, like through experiments, through real world challenges and learning from it. Then to motivate like the talk, I wanted to take a real world example and say like, if we have to build an MVP using something like AI, what are like how would you go about and what would like the process look like? What would the sprints look like, and what the MVP looks like? So just to kind of like bring everything together. So please feel free to ask me questions at any point. I normally say like, I am not an expert on Agile. Like all of you here know everything and more about Agile than me. I have been like kind of like the data scientist or an AI researcher or head of AI, trying to work very closely in a cross collaboration function teams, making sure that like how we use Agile based on the maturity and based on the process, how do we incorporate it, what it should look like for data science process and stuff like that. So if you have tough questions on like lean, safe, scrums, I may not be the person to answer that. This is also not about using machine learning tools for Agile, right? Like, like there are so many things that can be used from AI and machine learning purposes for automation, for computing metrics, for predicting the velocity, for doing everything. But this is not the talk about that. I always differentiate between AI and BI. If you are into like data reporting, building basic or complex analytics, which I call like flavors of BI, there are certain overlaps in terms of data understanding and like building the reports. But there are a lot of differences between AI or ML and BI, and I won't be talking about that in this talk. And like, I would be giving my version of like what works and how to map and what I have learned and what are my takeaways. That is not a complete foolproof process or anything that everyone should abide by. As you know, like every organization, everything works differently. So just take it as an example. That said, like the first thing I wanted to go, everyone is enamored by AI. Everyone is like, we need to use AI. AI is the next greatest thing after sliced bread. But I mean, like, I don't know if everyone knows, like, most AI projects fail in terms of, like, they are never into production. They are used as some experiments and they just stay there. Uh, and I'm not talking about like small startups. I'm talking about like giants like Facebook's, Google's, Amazon's. Everyone have like so many AI projects, and this is like the statistic, not made up by someone. And indeed, like till 2018, the numbers were 88% failure rate, and today it is somewhere between 80 to 85%. So there is like marginal improvement, but just like the ratio of like startups being successful or not, like AI has uh, worse ratio in many ways. And you can pick up any news and you will be seeing many of these kind of like headlines. My favorite is the Microsoft AI chatbot, not the current one where Bing and OpenGPT are integrated, but 3 years back they had the first chatbot which was learning from humans, and within 18 hours, the chatbot became sexist, racist, and really not what you want the chatbot to be. And like irrespective of like using AI as a recruiting tool, using it in autopilot feature in cars, using it in speech recognition, you will find like them failing spectacularly. So just remember that if you want to use AI, keep this in your background, that irrespective of Agile, irrespective of what you are doing, this you will be guided by these statistics. Now, the question is like, why does AI fail? And I tried to put like some of the reasons, but they are not complete by any means. Here I wanted to bring the difference between the software engineering and software testing and software development as compared to AI. In AI, that is why I'd say like difference between AI and BI. BI is much more deterministic. You know exactly what the report should look like and what kind of like things go into building that, right? Like AI has similar overlaps, but there are various questions around AI that are sometimes or most times very open. How are you sourcing your data? You want to train a machine learning model to do things. Where is the data coming from? Is the data available in like open source? Are you generating it by some process? Or people are annotating and sitting and building this data set from some place? Who are doing that? Are they incorporating their biases into building that? How does the data, like for building good machine learning or AI system, data sets have to be cleaned. Who will do that? Are there data engineers available to do that? Do they understand the data? And what happens in like for training the models? Yes. What happens in production when you have dirty data? Will the pipeline be incorporated to do this on fly? What is the cost of doing that? So there are lots of questions, and like the things you put like 3 months back, if the data keeps changing, the source keeps changing, is that valid at that point? So there are lots of things that need to be thought through. Model performance, right? Like I have to use a machine learning algorithm. Which algorithm? There are thousands of them. There is, on one side, there is a simple model, but it won't be performing great. On the other side, there is a complex chat GPT large language model base. But to run that, OpenAI has to spend $300,000 per day for n number of users. So the question is, what will you choose between these spectrum, and how do you move from one to other? Then there are like important business questions, right? Like, if I have to choose model, I have to use machine learning. What is the value that it gets, right? Like, what is it replacing? Is it replacing humans? Is it like assisting humans? And how will you measure that? Without that ROI calculation, everything becomes like, yeah, my model moved from like 70% accuracy to 80% accuracy. What does that really mean? In business, it may just mean like you have reduced like one investigation out of 100 or 10 investigation out of 100, and the cost has to be accounted for. So AI by itself has many challenges, and I will try to discuss some of that, how that can be overcome. Now, I won't talk about like Agile and Scrums a lot, because all of you guys here must be champion and understand every part of it. But I'll talk about like this CRISP DM process. It is called the cross industry standard process for data mining. This was done in 1996, before like many of the other software development processes were incorporated or took birth. And the funny thing is, this process has not changed in last 27 years. It has stayed exactly same. The whole group which built this particular process has gone, and still, if you do the statistic on like all the organization in data science and machine learning, 50% still use this particular process, and it is somewhat iterative and somewhat waterfallish. So you spend a lot of time initially on business understanding and data understanding. Then you go and do data preparation. And then you spend a lot of time iterating between data preparation and machine learning, modeling, or whatever you have. And then you say like, okay, I am done. Here is my model. Go evaluate. And then you say like, oh, it is not working. Go back to the drawing board of like what the business understanding or the value is. Go back to data understanding and have that iterative process. So, and finally, when everyone is happy and settled, you go after like 6 months, 8 months, or 12 months to deployment. And that is what the waterfallish part of it is. You don't know when your model would finally meet that criteria, and everyone is waiting for that deployment to be done. It has good iterative parts, similar like to business understanding, data understanding, which maps to somewhat aspects of planning and design. Some overlaps with data preparation and modeling with development. Some overlap with evaluation and testing and release with deployment. But it all happens quite like in waterfallish over period. So given that background of CRISP data modeling process and the Agile process, the similarity and differences, like most projects or most products, in my view, are in either of these three stages. Either you have to build from ideation to like something like an MVP, then go from MVP to the growth stage, and from growth stage to maturity stage. And I have been in various stages in my professional career, working on MVP stage, working on growth stage and maturity stage. And between like different dimensions of like the speed, the cost, performance, the, each of them can be different. And normally, like once you are in the growth stage and maturity stage, it is higher cost, like Chat GPT. Now have to open it for like millions of users and keep making sure that it runs 24/7 in fail-safe mode, and everyone is happy who is paying $20. There is no downtime, which was not the case when they released it as an MVP a few months back. So, so understanding like what you want to build and what stage your project is very important in terms of mapping it to data science. This is what I was talking about. Like CRISP DM process was kind of finalized, and the architecture team laid it out in 1996. There has been no version 2.0, and still it is used by 49% of people. Scrum is next popular based upon like the rigor, based upon like, do you want to integrate in a cross collaborative form with the various teams? Scrum is like what I have seen or experienced the second most widely adopted. Kanban is again like quite useful when many people know exactly what they are doing, more into maturity stage or growth stage, where it's kind of like there are certain unknowns and everyone needs to move from one thing to another. But my own is like everyone tries to map the data science process into like Scrum or Kanban and makes their own. So this is like another most popular technique. And then there are many others like TDSP, SEMAs, and others. So I have been always asked like what works and what are the challenges. So I'll first talk about what works well from a data science perspective. The combination of Agile and data science, what works well. Planning, productization, making sure that things are written down as like the backlogs, mapping those backlogs into the roadmaps, and making the organization aware of like what you would get. The cross-functional part of it, like I find that this before if you use just CRISP DM, only after evaluation of iteration, you go to the business guy and he's just like, oh, I don't have that problem now. And making sure that the stakeholders, the intersection of data scientists, data engineers, ML ops, the SREs they are all involved right from the start, right from the inception, thinking about every aspect of like how this would be deployed, what would be the cost of it, what pipeline I have to build, what kind of like data engineering stuff I need to do for runtime. All of this is the right way of doing things. Other things like task definition, deliverables, timelines, making sure that that's clear and understood makes it like a real benefit or pros here. And what I found, like some of the Agile metrics, each organization tracks different things on what it means, but some of these are my favorite for data science, where you can look at the velocity, the amount of unplanned work that comes in, especially in data science, the efforts that you that have variance across some of this. How are you tracking the performance and ROI as a metric from your machine learning process? All I think like together form a good metric to see like how the organization is functioning. And like other aspects like documentation, like making sure that you are not relying on just like the data scientist sitting in the corner and doing his thing. It's well documented, goes through the process, release and stuff like that. Having demos and stuff like that, like the whole rituals around retrospectives are very useful to get that feedback. In terms of challenges, there are many, but I'll view my favorite, that data science and software engineering are quite different. As I said, like one side of software engineering is very deterministic. Data science is not. It is ill-defined. It is very difficult to do estimation. Scopes and requirements change and change in different way in data science or machine learning as compared to software engineering. And if you kind of like are not open to like changes in your agile and you are like a strict agile implementer, then you will find challenges from the team, like especially the data scientist and the data engineers and others, because you need to adapt in many cases based upon the maturity, based on your organization, based on the resources. You may have to like make it a bit more flexible. So I wanted to like, I mean, like everyone here is an expert. I don't need to go through the process, but like the whole process works exactly the same. You kind of like go through like everything to get your product backlog, move it into the sprint backlog. You have your sprint planning, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever works for you. You have similar team, product owners, Scrum team of like Scrum masters. Some organizations work differently. They think like X need not be there or X and Y role can be working together. But for me, they are roles. Whoever does it, that is what their role should be. But like having that integration of data scientists, machine learning, operation, ML ops people, data engineers, validation or testers, subject matter experts are all key in terms of building that MVP or building any product. And I wanted to like give certain things from what I feel very important from a data science or machine learning perspective. When you're creating backlog or you're refining backlog, like as I mentioned, like engaging the stakeholders, all stakeholders together is the key. Making sure that the business requirements are completely understood. And I lay most stress here for data science projects because of the failure rates. What business users have in their mind is completely different from what data scientists has in mind. For data scientists, it is all about model quality. I want to take it from 70% to 90%. He doesn't care about like the business goals and mapping of that to the value. That is why like engaging, making sure that the feasibility assessment, making sure that things are like you put that as like the acceptance criteria to certain level is very important. And then there is things about not only about like getting the quality from the AI or machine learning models, but the practical aspect of it. Like if the greatest machine learning model takes 30 seconds once you pass the data and get the result, a real-time engine won't work with that. If I have to make detection of fraud, I have like an SLA of 7 to 10 milliseconds where I need to process that. And I can't build a very complex pipeline and machine learning tool that will give me results in 30 seconds. So practicality of what the SLAs are, the latency, everything becomes important. And the other part of it, right? Like at least brainstorming about like what the technical requirements mean. Like the data is tabular, is it an unstructured communications data? Are we into image processing? Are we in like combination of text, voice, combination of text, images? Does this problem look like categorization of data into spam, non-spam? Or is it like a regression or like estimation problem? Is it kind of an anomaly detection problem? Like mapping that right at the start becomes very important. And similarly, like what does acceptance or success mean, right? Like from that business goals or business user perspective, how do you translate into success, right? Like, are you caring about like accuracy, which is like, or you care about false positives, or you care about recall, that is like how many true positives you can get, because designing the system for both or doing it for across is not possible. So you have to kind of like, as a data scientist, clearly say that like, are we going for like accuracy? Are we going for precision, or false positive is a problem? Or is it like making sure like we catch everything, or a recall is the thing that we will measure? Then the question is like budget, right? Like from resources for not only about the people, but tools, compute. Compute comes as like the most important part. As I said, like if you are using, say, if you want to build a machine learning model from scratch and you want to build a large language model, it will take thousands of hours of training for a few iterations. And then you have to refine it, tune it further and stuff like that. That is like, even with GPUs, it is X number of dollars that you need to spend. So is your organization ready for doing that? And some aspects of what I call like spikes and refinement that need to be done nonstop in terms of to understand more about the data, understand more about the algorithms and deployment. And this is what I have learned, like many of the agile processes of spikes and refinements can be actually used as an advantage or as a process to guide like various unknowns, the unknowns about tasks, unknowns about the estimates, like data exploration. What is the data available? Should I spend time with like what is available? How do I get it? Like, do I have to worry about PII, PHI? Are there biases in the data? I can use spikes to actually enrich and understand more, or like using some of the CRISP DM processes with these spikes to actually refine more, to understand the various aspects from both algorithm as well as from data perspective. And once you have like kind of the backlogs or what you expect from that MVP, making sure that like everyone understands like what is that business and technical requirements we will map to, what would we get at the end, like a working code, a data pipeline model with this particular measure, with this particular quality. This would be tested on this particular data, giving us this particular value. And then like how, once you have that, like what would be the iterative sprints you need to carry out and map that to stories, and how will you time box that with different milestones? That becomes an important process. And there are various ways to map an agile process into CRISP DM, or take something like CRISP DM into something like Scrum, right? Like every sprint, you can do the same thing, right? Like iteratively, you can do data understanding, data preparation, model evaluation, business understanding is more of like, say, refining this, the goals and sprint planning part of it. So for certain organization, doing everything in every sprint works. What I have seen, or what worked many times for me, is like what kind of like similar but bit different. That is like, can I, if I have to go to an MVP, can I start with like something very simple? Like, can I use like spikes in my data understanding, my model choice, have my data engineer build like basic code for deployment and integration, because that's much more well-known task in terms of taking it to an AWS or cloud or on-premise, however you want to do it, right? Like, then like, as I said, like, how do you validate the models? How you test the models becomes very important in machine learning and AI. And that is why I say, like, once you understand the data, spending time iteratively in creating the data sets. What do my training data set look like? What do my testing data set look like? What are the metrics? And then using that as an acceptance criteria every time in every iteration to see the progress, right? And I always say, like, spend time on your data, take the simplest model, have the right validation and testing, and keep seeing the ROI change with that, keeping the model constant, spending time on data in the initial phases. What does data give you in terms of ROI? How does that work with the entire deployment and integration? See how that works. And then you will say, oh, just cleaning the data, the same model performed 5% better. The ROI was X%, and the integration worked fine. Whether I was doing a canary deployment or whatever it is, it worked well in my system, right? And then you can do further stuff, right? Like, oh, can I now do lots of feature engineering? That is like, I can combine various data sets in various ways and do different model choices. So in next sprint, you are getting into much more data science part of it. You are keeping certain things constant and like spending time on like how I go from like a simple model to a complex model. What does that complex model give me? In the same validation and testing, does it give me 2% or 20%? Does that 20% give me from X to Y in ROI and all that? And you keep refining and building from like the same process in every sprint. And finally, when you are, whether you're time boxed or you meet your acceptance criteria of your MVP, you will get that working code. You will get that data pipeline. You will get the model which is trained, validated. You have the ROI that the last sprint gave, and you have built the complete integration, right? Like, so starting from ideation, doing everything in like an iterative way, and mapping your data science process into the sprint, taking care of all other aspects of like making sure that your estimates are, you understand the feedback of your estimates, you have measuring your velocities, you are doing your reviews in the right way, you can be getting best of both the worlds. So in last few minutes, I wanted to walk through like, there is like, there is an organization, an ex-organization, which is working on like any other organization, where they get lots of RFPs and a lot of RFQs and stuff like that, right? Like my organization, I think a few of who are from digital reasoning might remember what we did in a hackathon once was something very similar, right? Can we have like something to assist humans or take certain steps of prepare forms or respond to RFPs automated, not 100% automated, but like have an AI respond to it, right? Like that seems like a very good hypothesis, right? Like not to like replace humans, but can we help humans to scale, right? So yeah, if a global organization is spending 20 pre-sales and sales people and n number of hours responding to RFPs, and then like they have 6 languages, European and Asian, to go across, they have to hire translators, convert the product doc into the mappings, and like answer the same thing across languages. Can we use AI to do that, right? That seems like the question, right? And here, from business to AI mapping, immediately a data scientist or a researcher will come to you and say that, oh, this looks like a valid AI problem, right? Like AI dialogue-based system or question answering system like ChatGPT has been doing and has achieved now like a stage which it surpasses human beings, right? Like on the left side here, I have given like many of like AI systems starting from very basic to like some of the ChatGPT and transformer based systems like Google's TFI or OpenAI's system that have achieved these particular process. And it is the same thing. Take unstructured documents, go it through, do all kinds of processing through that. And just like a reader, you ask questions, it uses that to go through the document and find the answer and give you the kind of like the right answer there. Right. Now, in terms of your creation or your refinement, you need to think about like taking that business problem we have and like map it to different metrics, right? Like what is the end goal of this? Like, is it assisting going across languages or like help us scale by reducing the number of people because they can then help in demos and stuff like that and stop wasting their time in RFPs, answering RFPs, or take only 20% of their time, right? So all of that needs to go in, and like what does success of this project mean? What is the business value that this project will bring? It can be like somewhat arbitrary, but you need to like put a stake in the ground. And then there is a hypothesis and goals, right? Like the hypothesis is like Chat GPT, like Q&A system with prompts will be ideal for doing something like this. And I'm using Chat GPT as like a term, but it is actually large language model and things around large language model. And then the same things have to be thought about in terms of business to technical requirement. How would I deploy this, right? Like, do I have data? Do I have like past RFPs across languages? Do I have all the product document that is available to give it to the system? Who's the subject matter expert here, like the pre-sales or the sales leader? How do I validate this? Like it is doing its job. What is the acceptance criteria? What are like the machine learning metrics that I can associate with the acceptance criteria mapping to the business value? So doing that in the right way will give us the kind of like the real backlogs and stories to which the team can work on. And there can be various refinements and spikes in terms of like going through existing data in terms of RFPs, what we have done. Do we have 10 or we have hundreds of those? How would I use some of that for my training? What I would use for testing? What is that distribution? Should I use my easy RFPs for training and hard for testing, or the other way around? So all of these are interesting questions, mapping from like what you want to do as the goal. Do I have like all the product documentation? Do I need translations to go across languages? Or like my machine learning system can do cross-lingual? That is the advantage. And similarly, like do my data scientists or machine learning engineers understand the state of the art? Because even I can't keep up with the state of the art. Every day there is like 10 to 12 new algorithms, new models being released, and it is like drinking from the fire hose there. So there may be need for like understanding the constraints, understanding the cost, free, open source, which all can be kind of like used in the spikes. And I give a very simplified process here in 4 sprint just to make the take the message home. But in real life, it was much more complex than that. So as I said, like I would spend time doing data understanding. That is like taking my existing RFP docs, whatever formats they are, PDF, Word, making sure that I have them in a unified way, in certain way that I can feed my system, taking my all my product docs, and all of this is important for training my system, right? Like understanding what innovations I need, building my deployment code, what visualization we all agreed to in our backlog can be built irrespective of like what the results are using the mock system, right? Like, and then like I will use like certain sprints to actually create my training docs, testing docs, working with SMEs, working with my business user, making sure that these are the right distribution. I will give 80% of my training on all the data I have my for training. I'll keep like initially a very simple model, something which users do, like you actually search through keywords. I will use that as what humans do as my kind of base model to compare and contrast with, right? Like if I can simulate how humans do, just based on keywords and just reading through what does it look like, right? What would be my validation and testing, right? Like there are various metrics here like glue and others, but something very simple like F1, which is balance between precision and recall, can be used. And then like taking those metrics you get, what would be like the ROI? If I had hundreds of RFPs, what would this automation lead to across these many languages with this simple model on this particular test data set, and go through basic visualization and integration, right? And somewhere down the line, you will go through the other areas of like, now have the simple model. Let me go through and do take Google's complex end-to-end system, which is called T5 for question answering, feed all my documentation in various steps, right? Like I don't say like do the whole training won't be done in one sprint, but you will get like a model in a sprint, and then you can evaluate with what you got with the base model and use that to actually compare and contrast the metrics, the new ROI, and the new benefits you got, right? And finally, while doing that, like as I said, like you have finalized model, you have finalized data pipeline, you have the whole ROI report and the UI at the end, which qualifies for your MVP. At least you have accepted that to a level like now this works for me, and it works sufficiently well to kind of assist in this way. So this was my poor man's breaking of like from like ideation to actual execution, how to go through from a data science and agile process. So I want to stop at this point and ask all of you if you have questions, if you have comments or anything, I'm ready to do.
Thank you, Uday. As always, very insightful.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Anybody with any questions? That was a lot. Thank you for that.
Okay, that seemed easy.
Yes, easy for you, but a lot for us to digest.
Okay, I mean, easy in terms of no questions asked, right? Not in terms of the talk. But yeah, I mean, like if you have questions or you want to ask me later, I think my LinkedIn, you can connect through LinkedIn or my email kamathuday@gmail.com, and I'm happy to kind of like.
Hey, Uday, I will certainly ask one question, going back to your first slide where you've really shown us a very staggering number of 84 or 85% AI initiatives failing, right?
Yep.
That's true, right? Based on what you're saying, right? The question I have is, with the methodologies that we talked today, right? What are some of the things we could do as leaders to like prevent that from happening, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like most places, at least what I have seen is like the gap between like what AI can do and its business value, right? Like many times it is impossible, very difficult for like data scientists to put that hat. That is why that requires that kind of like spending time and making sure that you just don't use AI for the sake of AI, right? Like or like complex large language model for the sake of it. If a simple logistic regression can give you 80% ROI and give you the latency and everything that you need. So in my view, like various times AI fail because of that gap between the business user and like the machine learning or the data science thing. Also, data plays a key role, right? Like if you were expecting kind of like you are doing something around people's behavior, people's behavior changed a lot in last 3 years, right? Like if you were working on things like user clicks and like other stuff, data changes based on the environment, based upon like different events happening, like COVID, working from home. So there is kind of like the dynamic nature to data there. Like biases in data causes like huge problem. So these are like some of like big rocks that you need to be aware of right from the start. And as a leader, make sure that you keep an eye on all of this as you build system.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that insight. It is almost 8, maybe a few seconds to go before that. So I want to thank Dr. Uday formally for coming and putting so much effort and time for our community. Next month, on the last Thursday, as always, on our cadence, we will have John Stenbeck speak on Agile in government, especially on contracting. What would agility look in that aspect of the government, along with some of the other topics and areas. He's an Amazon bestseller numerous times, like our esteemed guest today. So we hope you'll join us again. Dr. Uday, would you like to stay back for a little bit more in case somebody has questions? But everybody is welcome to, kind of leave and drop off. We don't want to keep you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Toby. Thanks, Mike, for organizing. And it was my pleasure to discuss some of the insights I had working with many of my fellow leaders here. Thank you.
Thank you for
Dr.
coming.
Thank you, Dr. Uday. This was a great session.
Thank you.